Kams audio son, you burn the swine when I want you shine. The tree of life, them I want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Kams I say them heart no kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, Red Hat.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you conniving, money, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. You can keep your conniving money. When you in a corruption, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me work for. A £2 note and a guilder piece. A £2 note and a guilder piece. A £2 note and a guilder piece. That's all the money that me work for. I said money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. I don't want you conniving money.
Well, I invoke the WPA's position that we are engaging in civil disobedience and non-cooperation with the government, and on that grounds I refuse to participate in the interview. The question and struggle, is not personal. Whatever sacrifice as a political activist or a political leader you have to make for your people, you have to make it.
Guyana and Guyana.
The WPA's position that we are engaged. Well, I invoke the WPA's position that we are engaging in civil disobedience and non-cooperation with the government to participate in the interview. The question and struggle, is not personal.
Morning, are you morning? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. How are you do? How are you do? What life is like in Guyana, this apartheid state. It's the morning after. I like to take note of the morning after. It's the morning after Nominations Day. And a lot of people are heartbroken. But I hope most of you, all of you if possible, were able to maintain your sanity. I hope you were able to maintain hope. I trust that you had a successful yesterday. And the images of yesterday's nominations did not cause you a sleepless night. Right? I hope that you've been able to rest and be at rest also with your conscience. Good? I hope all of that is true. What went on yesterday? How were you able to manage? How many of you took days off to go and march? Oi! Kank, you good, Mr. Amsterdam. What's that? I tell you all these kind of references I don't understand. I don't understand shorthand. Right? Oh, I think I know what it is. Me making that call? You know, I tell you all, I don't masquerade, you know. When I say that I'm a graduate of the University of Guyana Center of Communication Studies, I didn't just get a degree. Nor did I just go through the motion. Ask my colleagues about me, my classmates and so on. Ask my lecturers about me. And in every educational institution that I've gone to, find out about me. Not only have I been a good student, but I have also been a good teacher, because I'm not one of the selfish ones. I don't go to educational institutions and watch my brothers and sisters, regardless of your ethnicity. Let me tell you that straight. Regardless of your ethnicity, black, white, Chinese, Indo, whatever your ethnicity. If you've been a classmate of mine, you can attest to the fact that I help all and sundry. I don't like seeing nobody left behind. I always extend a helping hand. If you don't take it, it's up to you. Right? Keep that in mind. So I learn. And I learn a lot by teaching. And so you learn while you teach. And that is why I will forever teach. So I went to the university. I went to Critchlow Labour College. I went to GTI. I went to secondary school. I went to primary school. I went to nursery school. I've always been a good student and a helper. Tell them I say the only thing my report used to get that perhaps was negative but contributed tremendously to my education is talkative. As I'm not surprised, nor my mother would be surprised, that I chose, apart from everything else, journalism as one of my loves. Right? So when I come here and I do certain things, I'm just using my IQ. Right? Remembering and practicing what I was taught. And also coming up with new ideas of how things should be approached. Right? Good. Morning, are you morning to all them trenchy and gutter dwellers, what do you call them? Gutter rats and latrine crap ones. So. Morning, y'all. Y'all welcome to the program. Hi, my friends over there at NCN in the bottom room, the downstairs office. How y'all doing? You know, I did internship at NCN too. Yeah, I did internship at NCN as part of my final, studies for my degree in communication and so. Yeah, I did internship at NCN. Radio in particular. I don't think I did television. Can't remember. But definitely radio. Right? Morning, y'all. Morning. A whole lot of people down there, and I had a good relationship, but, you know, I don't want to call a name. You know why? This government is so damn vindictive that just to have friends who don't agree with them, they would mash you up. Right? There's the whole story. Good. school and so on. I reach a stage where I say I tired with education, man. I gonna spend my time working so that my children can get educated, higher education, right? Yeah, that's how I think. I could left off so that the younger generation could take up. And that is the problem we got in this society where politics is concerned. The older politicians do not think that it is necessary, or it is decent, or it is right, it is ethical for them to step aside so that the youngsters can step forward. And so what do we get? We got a set of old politicians who at some point were respected in this society by their peers and their colleagues, and the younger generation looked up to them and so on, that are now selling their souls. They are now undoing all the foundation that they laid for a decent legacy, because they in their behavior have become indecent. That's what we're having. Right? Patricia Chase Green, good morning. How you do, sister? Right? I tell you how I look at things. I will forever curse Sam Hinds as indecent, shameful. Some people say shameless, but in my mind the correct usage is shameful. First thing, the big man stepped aside for the little bypass. The big man was prime minister, he stepped aside for the little by term president. Then he became president. Or he was president even before the little by. Right? He was president. And then he stepped aside for the little bypass and all kind. Today, Sam Hinds is an ambassador. Check around the world. As I talk, I want to Google it. So y'all give me a little time to Google it. Check around the world. Do you know of any other president who became an ambassador? Huh? Do you know of any president who became ambassador? Or worse yet, do you know of any prime minister that became ambassador? Huh? I'm seeing one here. I see somebody named Kevin Rudd of Australia, who was a former prime minister. He was appointed ambassador. But I don't see many more. It's the one story I'm seeing here. Yeah, perhaps. So maybe these are the exceptions, Hinds and Rudd. But do you know of any presidents that became prime minister? Sam Hinds was both president and he was prime, and he was prime minister and he was president. And then he became ambassador. That's an embarrassment to yourself as an elder politician. That is saying to us that you have no decency, you have no sense of place and time, and you have no legacy. Because quite frankly, in my mind, look at the likes of Barack Obama and the Clintons and the, what the US president's name? The Bushes and so on. When them bother retire or have served out their time as president, what do? They're going to establish some kind of foundation, apparently to help the world. For the most part, they don't go job hunting. And they don't take what I consider low-lying government position jobs. I don't even see them as advisors to presidents. I mean, I want to believe that they do that in the back rooms. But in the eyes of the society, these are retired presidents, former presidents. They take up a more social responsibility. They are always into fundraising for this cause and that cause, and they have this foundation to deal with this and that. But in Guyana, these Uncle Toms, I can't see any other name for them. I tell you something here just now that just flashed across my mind. Instead of retiring in grace, believe that they have some kind of duty to continue to serve their masters as Uncle Toms. And so here's Sam Hinds, former president, former prime minister, now ambassador to the US. His name is calling in the hiring of some lobbying firm for somebody whose character is being tried to restore. They're trying to restore or whatever, embellish, whatever, I don't know. And he's distancing himself from that. Now, if you had retired and stay retired, as an elder statesman, as Novella Noble said, your name won't be calling in that. Understand that? But Sam Hinds is not the only elder statesman that is guilty of this. Years ago, I have tremendous respect for Hamilton Green. I don't think I have no respect for him. Especially now that he's retired and staying retired. Years ago, I laughed at Hamilton Green. The mere thought of a former prime minister on the political circuit campaigning to be a mayor had me in what you call it, in stitches. I was laughing because I'm saying here is one of the persons who served this country for years in one of the highest office or higher offices. And because of a fallout, and because he's of the opinion, hey, I can't give up on the presidency in my mind, or I can't give up on the opportunity to lead this nation, or I can't give up on political power, I'm going to bring myself down from prime minister to become mayor. And I think he had some of the most demeaning experiences as mayor. And he could have retired nicely and enjoyed his legacy as prime minister. And there are lots of other instances where people could have retired and stay in the corner quietly, like Charles Ramsden Sr. Must have made a name for himself as a judge, but that wasn't enough. He had to sell his soul as the information czar that has never, ever, 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 ever acted on behalf of the people to release information people consider critical. And the list can go on and on and on and on and on. We got Claudette Singh right now we're dealing with at GCOM. In any other decent society, at the end of the 2020 elections, Claudette Singh would have retired and go home. Especially that this election turned out to be a big fiasco under her chairmanship. In any other society, she would have retired and go home. But the problem in this society is that a few people believe that they alone got all the knowledge, the wisdom, and understanding to lead this nation. And where they're leading it? Downward. Him Jack young man, he ain't 60 yet. But having served your term as president for 2 times, 2.5 times, quite frankly, I think, you should be on your way. Again, you should act as an elder statesman, even in your youthful years. You should be out, maybe in some back room of the party planning strategy, but you're out here running government, fighting for 3rd term. Where is Trudeau? Trudeau was the Prime Minister. Is he still the Prime Minister of Canada? Young man, has he retired yet? I can't remember. I don't even know who the Prime Minister is of Canada right now. But I remember Trudeau as a young Prime Minister. Where is he? The thing is, our people don't know when to say quit. And so you look around you, and what you find happening, I'm going to mash some toes now. What you find happening is that we have a set of recycled politicians. A set of politicians recycle themselves. Let me explain this recycling to you. You fall out with the PNC as a senior politician. You decide by me I ain't playing retire. I'm not going to get out of the game. I jump in ship. I go in with the PPP. You fall up with the PPP and you make the same determination. I jump in ship. I go in with the PNC. Or in some instances, those who jump in ship from the PNC have joined with those who jump in ship from the PPP, and they went and they formed the AFC, and a lot of PNC and PPP people are now jumping ship to the AFC. So when your political usefulness has reached its limit, whether by virtue of age or poor decision making or change of party or government and so on, you don't want to retire. What you want is to stay in the political fray. So all right, the PPP will not have me. I will go to the AFC or I will go to the PNC. Right? That is what is happening. So here are some examples. I know a lot of y'all looked yesterday at nomination. And some of the images coming out of nomination. One man sent some photos to me, so I'm go to my heart good. I am happy that his heart is good. And I'm happy that I too have a good heart because I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried about them. It's mankind you're dealing with. And so nothing should surprise you. But here is a biggie for the day. At least some people consider it a biggie. Patricia Chase Green is on the side of the PPP. And everybody jumping up because Patricia Chase Green is on the side of the PPP. Why? Because at one point in time, Patricia Chase Green was seen in the forefront of the PNC. Right? But what a lot of people perhaps fail to remember is that when Hubert Singh was made mayor, Patricia Chase Green was disappointed. I understand there was almost a public spot, if I remember. Right? public spot. There was that disappointment, and there was that kind of falling out between her and the PNC. So the only elections that have come up since then, after 2020, is this one. So she's showing her discontent by joining the PPP. Or is she saying to us that the price is right? And since the price is right, and I will get no price over the PNC, I am going to take my price. A lot of people you saw on the PPP's parade for nomination yesterday had their price. The young man, the young footballer Garrett, just yesterday morning, I think I mentioned $23 million, I think, given to 5 contractors in agriculture to clean drains. That's what y'all black people could do, clean drains. We're going to get out $25 million. Garrett was one of the contractors. Does it strike you as strange? Is it coincidental that Garrett and the others got their contracts a few days before nomination day? Talk to me. That was the price. I could imagine the conversation. So Monday morning you put in a red jersey and come out with your nomination. Buy up to know y'all do none for me. I then the background all the time I supported y'all. Y'all promising me things up to now y'all do none for me. Now you tell me come out Monday, why coming out for? Alright man, we gonna start out contract. Can you imagine that kind of conversation? As a matter of fact, someone pointed out yesterday, it's a Facebook post, someone alleged that in many of the African Guyanese community, the PPP has teamed up with what they consider rogue and criminal elements to contest the local government elections as a way of intimidating black people in those communities. I want you to test that. I want you to investigate that because I think it has merit. Right? So I'm saying, all us the people who went out there and marched with the PPP yesterday, African Guyanese especially, at the price. We see Garrett got his contract, that's his price. All of the 10-day month workers got their price. Because they were going to lose a day's pay if they didn't go there yesterday. So their price is a day's pay. And since they're getting $40,000 for 10 days, their price is a $4,000 price. I've seen a text message where somebody said they were paid $10,000. And they were saying, listen, the PPP could call me every 3 days or 3 days a week. At this rate, $10,000 for 3 hours, not a bad deal. Right? So everybody, a whole lot of people out there at the price. Some people got $5,000 and a box of food. That was their price. But while, for example, the guy who I saw the text message saying he got $10,000, right? He got $10,000. Sees it as just $10,000 for 3 hours. Chase Green, who I'm sure would be smart enough to bargain for more than $10,000, says she has a big ticket face. Might have gotten upwards of $10,000. Right? And while they see these decisions as personal, because it is about I getting 10,000, I getting 10 million, I get in 40 million. I get in a house lot. I get in a contract. Says they see it about I. What they are not recognizing is that it is bigger than the I. It is bigger than the individual. Let me analyze this. I had to do this. I did this several times with people who are big and you would believe are in the know. The PPP doesn't mind using oil money to buy these images because that's what they're doing. They're buying these images. They don't mind using oil money to bribe for this imagery because this very imagery is going to be used to the demise of your people, you who are taking their money for these images. A lot of people seem to believe that elections are won or lost on elections day. Winners and losers of elections are determined long before elections day based on what they do. Based on what they do. Understand that? The election results is just a confirmation of your winning or losing through the period leading up to the election's results. Because by the time it comes to elections day, people have already decided what they will do with that vote. At least to the greater part. And the decisions people make in relation to their vote, in many instances, are influenced by other people. The ideas of other people, the experiences of other people, the expectations of other people, the behavior of other people. All of those things are taken into consideration when that decision is made. The decision to join the PPP or not is also influenced by other people. Let me explain this. When the average young man sees Patricia Chase Green on the PPP ticket, young man or young woman, the young person, the first thing that goes through the mind is she were a leader in the PNC and she could join the PPP, what about me? Who, number one, perhaps never had any party allegiance. Or number two, looking for it too, according to the bias. So if Patricia Chase Green, who was up there, as a PNC member, as a PNC representative, as a PNC bigwig, some will argue, could join the PPP for whatever the incentive, what about me, the young man, young woman who now looking for make it? That's the influence you have on the young people. That's the influence you have on the young people. That is the example. You're leading by example for the young people. So it's not a personal decision. It might appear personal to you. It might appear selfish. But it has wide and long-reaching impact. Good? I was explaining to a certain businessman and friend of mine, villager, the other day. Said he felt used by the PPP. Said as a businessman, he never really joined any political party, etc., etc. But he became acquainted with certain people in the government because of certain other people who introduced them. And they used those introductions as opportunities for access. So they encourage them to organize functions so that they can come. They offer to sponsor functions so that they can come and they can get to talk to a lot of people in the community. And they were able to take a lot of photos with people in the community. And they seek out those who they consider leaders in the community. And strong men and women in the community, and they brought them in and they took their photos. And then they splattered social media with them. Why? All they wanted to do was to show to the world. We can't be racist. Look at how many black people, look at how many black influencers in the black community we hanging out with. And they're hanging out with us. If we were racist, you think they would have been comfortable hanging out with us? And so they use them as poster boys and girls to play with the psyche of the younger men and women, younger folks, and even weaker older men and women who did not take the time to reason. All they see is, hey, if the man is a big shadow man doing so well and he could go and join the PPP, what happened to me? So that's what the PPP is using these images for, is a psychological war there. And so all those who tell themselves that they're just wearing the jersey to get a $10,000 for 3 hours, think again. That $10,000 is buying influence. And so you are influencing your community in a way that you might not even be able to alter when the time comes to alter. Because here's what a lot of people telling themselves. Go ahead and buy and take the money today. But come June 12th, I know where my ex going. But while you're saying that, young people are looking at you and they're seeing an image of crossover. And in their mind, they have crossed over too. So when you are going in the booth and saying, I burn PNC, I got dead PNC, ex of PNC, the younger ones who have seen your image and be influenced by it are going to put their exes next to the PPP. Understand that? So it's not you just catching a race. It's you selling influence. And let me give you another scenario. The elections come and go. And the opposition loses it. And they start to cry, foul. These elections were rigged. PPP did not get this amount of votes. The PPP will do this. And their lobbyist forums will do this. We publish the photos. We publish the photos from nomination day. Look at the number of people. Look at the number of black people who were behind the PPP on nomination day. These are all crossover votes, and that is why the PPP has increased its vote in these local elections, and the coalition's votes have reduced a whole lot. And so the evidence is already gathered that there are thousands of African Guyanese who have moved their support from the PNC or their opposition to the PPP. And so it's natural to expect that at elections time, the PPP votes will go up incrementally. And likewise, the coalition or the opposition votes are likely to go down. Because look at the photos. The opposition wasn't able to show you hundreds of PPP supporters or Indo-Guyanese crossing the floor to march with them on nomination day. But the PPP was able to show you hundreds or thousands of African Guyanese, presumably opposition supporters, crossing the floor to march with them. And And so when they come out and make a claim that they won, and they won by this large margin, the photos are there to show you contributed to that. You might have gone and put the X for the coalition, for the opposition, but the damage was already done. Tony B said, you don't have to say you're sorry for all the wrongs that you have done. No, I don't want to hear that story, for the damage has already been done. A lot of people are damaging their chances, their children's chances for a better future, the country's chances for a better future, simply because they want to palm grease with oil money. That is what we find ourselves in now. That is what is happening now. And so a set of people are cussing us out. A set of people cussing out WPA. Because WPA says, use June 12th as a day of resistance against the questionable electoral system that we have in the country. Mark Benchap cussing WPA left, right, center. Sure enough, you all hear Mark Benchap cussing WPA for the last 2 weeks. 5-man party and all of that. Well, hey, let me remind Mark that the 5-man party got the PPP doing it. Have you seen the PPP following the 500,000 man party? Wherever the 5-man party goes and speaks with the people, the government follows. Last weekend they were in Ansgrove. Check. Every community that WPA went and kept a meeting and spoke to the people frankly and made recommendations, the PPP went after to try to appease this situation. I would be happy to be in a 5-man party that is that effective than a party of 5,000s and multiples of 5,000 that has no impact. So cuss on, Mark, cuss on. And those who want to join you, cuss on. But them cuss can only help to strengthen the divisions among us at a time when we don't want division. It's them same cuss got PNC and shambles, you know. Everybody cussing everybody. Nobody is not offering an olive branch. Nobody is not saying let bygones be bygones and let us pull this thing together for the greater good of ourselves and our people. Everybody is concerned about themselves, because once they get to sit at the trough, they're happy. They don't care about the people. And so going to local government elections, although it is going to be rigged, it is massively rigged already, it's saying even if we lose, we are going to get a seat at the table, to get a monthly stipend, to get access to those in government, to be able to make deals, corrupt and otherwise. That's how I am reading it. This is not about the people and their democracy. This is about us maintaining status. Yesterday I said sometimes you have to lose to win. Sometimes you just got to give up status and fight in the gutters to change the system. And that is when you're true servants of the people. WPA will continue to fight. WPA will continue. It's not the first time WPA is saying boycott an election. It's not the first time WPA has boycotted an election. And WPA is saying this time around, use June 12th as a day of resistance against this nonsense. I am promoting a petition that is on my page right now. It's called Boycott the 2020 Local Government Elections. It is gathering signatures. Yesterday, more than 500 of you were here. I asked you to kindly go over and sign the petition. Less than 50 of you did. But yet you're here every morning talking about boots on the ground and taking action and so on. You're asked to take a simple action, sign the petition. Signing the petition supporting a call for boycott of the elections Doesn't mean that you got to boycott the election. If you choose to vote in elections, that's on you. But signing a petition is indicating to the powers that be that I do not think the current electoral machinery is up to the task of giving us a free, fair, and credible election. And some joining in the call to boycott the elections since it is going to be held under these conditions. But when it comes to election day, you have to weigh the pros and cons of voting or not voting. Good? And my encouragement to you again is to sign the petition. Sign the petition. Sign the petition. That doesn't tie your leg from voting. You decide whether you want to vote or not. But when we can pool our resources together, when we can bring our voices together to send a strong, loud message that we know that GCOM is compromised and is not likely to help us to get a free, fair, and credible elections, then that also makes a difference. So let's go for it. There are many people who are not happy that WPS said use the day as a resistance. But did you recognize that everybody, all the PPP and their friends came out from all the woodwork and the pit latrine and the trenchy and the crapo? All of them came out and started singing for the PPP. All of them came out and saying, you must partake in the election. Why? How suddenly? You must partake in it. They should be glad if nobody partakes in the election because they would win. But I recognize that a win as a singular participant is questionable and grants you no legitimacy, it grants you no claim to fame, it grants you no reason to boast. And so now, since we know we have already rigged the system, let us see as many as possible that we can get to partake with us, so we will say we beat all of them fair and square. So all of those who are saying, our ancestors died for the right to vote, you must vote. Our ancestors also killed for the right to vote. So you must kill some people, then you way that making your vote not count. Let's reason, is that where we're going? Transportation was necessary to get you from point A to B. But our ancestors decided we are going to boycott the bus company because they're not treating us fairly. We will boycott the bus company, and until they boycotted the bus company, the policies weren't changed. Some will argue that they should have continued to travel on the buses in the back and give up their seats to whites when they were commanded to. Would they have gotten that change by now? Are we likely to get a change by going to every corrupt election that we have in this country instead of boycotting it and making it a day of resistance and really calling on the elements and say we will not stand for this nonsense? And join the eyes of the world to the fact that we are not going to elections because we don't trust them, we don't believe the results will represent our interests? Talk to me. Let Paul Singh talk about who preaching hate. Paul Singh comes from a place of hate. And so the only thing you can see in reasoning that does not agree with his intellectually laziness is hate. Our minds have to meet someplace. Somebody's asking me this morning if I'm challenging Aubrey Norton. I'm not challenging Aubrey Norton. I am saying I have a different approach to Harry Norton. That doesn't make me challenge him. I'm entitled to a different opinion and a different approach. Does that mean I have a problem with Harry Norton? I don't have a problem with Harry Norton. I might have a problem with a decision made by Norton, but that doesn't make me an enemy of Norton. Or anybody else, as a matter of fact. One of the things we have to learn, that we have to stop personalizing things if we want to be successful leaders. Can't be personal. This is our approach, this is my approach. We have a difference of approach. Maybe we can sit and see if we can find a middle ground on it. Okay, Aubrey. You believe that you must contest the elections? We're saying don't contest the elections. Is it possible that you can contest the elections and you can struggle at the same time for a revamping of the electoral machinery? Yes, it is possible. Well, then we will support you in that struggle, or you will support us in that struggle, and we will support you in the voting for the elections. Is that a possible position? Of course, there can be no absolutes in politics. So is it possible that we can write to us at the same time? Okay, you want to contest the election, but we want to struggle for a better machinery. You join us in struggling for a better machinery, and we will join in supporting you for the elections. How about that? And so while you stand to benefit from a better machinery by contesting and fighting at the same time, we are standing ready to support you in that fight and that process. Can you sign the petition? Can your members sign the petition? So that we can get 100,000 persons drawing to the world's attention that GCOM is corrupt, and we don't expect proper and fair and credible results from GCOM under this current electoral machinery. But contest the elections at the same time? Yes, it is possible. But are you thinking outside of the box to say to your members, hey, y'all sign the petition, but we're contesting the elections? We have too many absolutes in this country from politicians and leaders. It's as if they can't multitask. If we're contesting the election, we're contesting the election. We're not going to contest the election and squabble with GCOM at the same time. If we're squabbling with GCOM, we're squabbling with GCOM. We ain't going to contest the election and squabble with GCOM. Like I was saying since 2020, while we were squabbling in the courts, we should have been battling on the streets. And so the courts would have recognized, number one, the importance of urgency, because their urgency would help for the restoration of order. And they would also recognize that if we give decisions that are not fair, the people are not likely to leave the streets. But no, if we're fighting in courts, let us stay in courts and keep the streets clear. And we are reaping the fruits of that kind of thinking. That's what we sow, so this is what we're reaping. But who am I? According to Randy, sing some low IQ banner from Buxton Bagdam side, who dance more than Ali. Well, if anybody could dance more than Ali, I'm sorry for them. They're bad shape. It is 5 minutes past 8 o'clock, or the lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. Rick believes that the PPP will run me mad. Why? Why? You think I lose sleep over the PPP? Think again. The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. Our senior politicians, our statesmen, elder statesmen, as Noble call them, must know when to quit. Man and woman. Call all the line. I got something that it's right there. I got it in, you know. Caller looking for microphone. I gotta find it. I just had it here, you know. Oh, I came into the office with it right there. Oh, it hiding. Good. I'm trying to ensure that, you know, we had improved quality of everything. A young man said to me, Mr. Amsterdam, you need a better mic. And I promised him I'm going to work on fixing the sound. So, I worked on fixing the sound. I hope it's what he was expecting. Call it live. Go ahead.
Morning, neighbor. Morning, bye. Morning. The black brother, you have done and you're still doing your part. At least you use your show to state your opinion, and for many of us, it's a valid opinion, saying that it's better for lose to win. Because you could lose this one for prepare for win with the bigger one. You understand? And on the other hand, the PPP prepared this one here for give them an insight of how they're going to go through with the next one. And the fact that the election is going to be contested by the main opposition party is now 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 federal there in the PPP camp. Is all the federal who could on a foul or a carrying crew there in the PPP camp. You understand? The sure, because what going to happen now? The same system going to use, because you ain't got no space for argue, for say nothing but biometrics and that kind of thing, because it would say the same system used in the local government, and you ain't had no problem. So don't go in. So there's a win-win for the PPP. There's a win-win. And let me address something concerning Brother Mark Benchtap, a black brother. It was so surprising to see that he could have come so low and be so petty for state that the WPA is a 5-man party and who mustn't bother with thing. In this time here, so this time the WPA shared the views on how on what they think about it. If he think otherwise or whatever, it don't have to come down so low and so petty. You know, as a man would know the struggle and understand the struggle. And you know the thing about it, Kadaki? Brother Lincoln Lewis was on the program. A man work against with the state on other programs that we should boycott this thing. He ain't ask the man nothing. He ain't ask the man nothing. He ain't tell the man like, why you take this stance and them thing. The man been on the program last night, you know, and I hope that he listening. That Brother Mark, your song, when I tell you petty, real childish, your song. You understand? Will you talk there concerning the WBA 5-man party? Yeah, and them kind of thing. You just push me little more, sink we little more down. You understand? You could say that you're okay and you know this because you like to feel at times, because I listen to your program, understand? You was real petty last night. When I tell you petty, full petty. This is it for them. Coming down, my brother Kadaki. When it come to all them we see jump and join PPP and all kind of thing, here will happen now, and it don't start talking. Here will happen. The PPP go full up because the set of Ghana is a set of hustlers. Everybody just gone, you hear nobody gone talking that, well, Guyana is going to be better. And
morning, neighbor, morning. Are you morning? Are you morning? Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. Me not want you conniving morning. It is now 7 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour on the 19th day of April in the year 2023. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, the BUXTONIAN Kidaki Amsterdam. It's what, Wednesday? Yes, it is Wednesday, and so we're going to have Dr. Hinds in the house this morning. We're going to have Dr. Hinds. And we're going to be talking about enough things. There are lots of things to talk. I don't think we got enough time to talk about everything. Right? But I know for a fact that you know that I know that the Marriott is about to go to the friends, family, and cronies of the people, including Sarah Lynch. I'm sure you've seen it in the news recently, as recent as last evening, as a matter of fact, that the highest bidder for the Marriott is a friend of Sarah Lynch and a friend of the PPP government. As a matter of fact, I saw a photograph, a post, and so it should be no surprise to us that that man is now declared the highest bidder for the Marriott Hotel. A hotel built, number one, a hotel that was bought out of receivership by the AP and UFC government using taxpayers' money. A hotel which is now profitable and is always fully booked. But Jagdeo is saying that he's selling it. The PPP is saying that they're selling it. Why are they selling it? Because private sector businesses are expected to build 7 new hotels in Guyana. And so because you're going to get quote-unquote competition, it's all well and good to sell it out. Because you don't want competition, despite the fact that it is profitable, well recognized right now. Well recognized and profitable right now. You're anticipating, or you claim you're anticipating, that the 7 others will be more competitive and therefore they're going to affect your clientele. Right? But you're the government, you know. And you regulate the industry, you know. Good? But remember when they put GPC, Guyana Pharmaceutical Corporation, up for sale, there were all kinds of arguments to the same, saying the same thing. And what happened? A friend of the PPP and Barry Jagdeo bought it, Bobby Ramroop, along with other agencies attached. Right? And so we are doing the same thing again. The very same thing we are doing again. In that we are selling a profitable entity. As a matter of fact, the PPP is known for doing that, you know. Remember Republic Bank? Right? You remember Republic Bank? Yes. What is now Republic Bank was Guyana's most profitable bank even at the time of selling it. Even at the time of selling it. The assets were so much that I think that they were more than what it was sold for. This is the country we live in. Nevertheless, I just wanted to make you aware of that. In case you didn't know, I want you to pay attention. But while we are sitting and talking about these things, and getting vexed, as we say, we getting vexed about these things, other people are taking action when they disagree with what the governments do. The Jamaicans, for example, that's Bondong Hotel. Right? If they don't agree with what's happening, they take a stand. They take the scourge the earth policy, you know. If we can't get it, nobody can get it. I wonder if Guyanese would ever get to that point.
Hello guys, how are you?
It was the PPP's attitude too. I keep reminding y'all that the PPP has a scourge the earth policy. If they can't get it, nobody else can get it.
Today's video will be talking about an incident with your favorite girl reality 360, and welcome back to today's episode of TikTok Gist. Thank you very much for always coming to watch the videos. An incident which happened in Jamaica. So family, I will leave the video rolling so that you watch it. Okay, so don't forget to like and share. Let's get into the video. So in this video, Asians and Europeans opened a hotel in Jamaica and no blacks were allowed to enter the hotel. So the locals got upset and burned down the hotel to the ground. So family, this is the video.
The video pause.
I don't care what nobody say. I love how Jamaica handle business. Listen to me. If Jamaicans don't want somebody doing something, they're not doing it. There's none of that racist bullshit doing that shit. No. I've heard so many stories from the Jamaicans while I was there about, like, the governor, what is it called? The ambassador? Not an ambassador. I seriously cannot remember what Charles is called. I think, no, not a queen, president. I cannot remember what it's called. I'm blanking on the word, but because I've heard about the corruption in y'all government and it's terrifying, like Jesus Christ. They'll come somewhere and try to build something which is eliminating people's land, their houses, farms, and shit like that they own. And Jamaicans will just come together as a community and stop that shit by any means necessary. You want to know all the horror stories I've heard about when somebody's child get kidnapped, or if there's a predator out there? Oh my God. I don't even seriously think I could talk about it on TikTok without getting the sound or the video took. Like, Jamaicans handle business. They freed they damn self from slavery. They weren't waiting on no white Jesus or no savior. They saw slavery as something they didn't want to be a part of, and you know what they did? They freed they damn self. Why do you think they got? Is it Freedom Park or not Freedom? I swear I'm blanking on some of the names today. I just woke up, but Jamaicans know which park I'm talking about, right?
In today's video, we'll be talking about an incident which happened in Jamaica. So family, I will leave the video rolling so that you watch it. Okay, so don't forget to like and share.
When I was in Jamaica, I never forget. It was a waterfall, and for some reason it overflowed and was running across the road. Like on the side of the road, there was like this giant waterfall coming down and it overflowed. You know what people did? They turned it into a tourist attraction. Just like that. It was people out there selling jerk chicken. It was people out there with fruit carts and stuff like that. That was people out there taking showers and baths in it. The news came out there, reported it, and just went home. It's still there. Nothing happened to it. And I love that. Like, when Jamaicans want something done, they're going to get that shit done. I don't care what nobody say. They will come together as a community to get some shit done. That is something that I absolutely love and respect about Jamaicans, because I don't care what nobody say. You don't mess with kids, none of that robbing and stealing bullshit, because if you go too far, they gonna go further. They get shit done sometime before the police. The police have to come down and save you half of the time. I'm like, it's beautiful how they stand their ground. And
anybody learn something yet? To all people of different nationalities that are choosing to open up businesses in black communities, especially places like Jamaica, Haiti, all these different places, please understand that we are not our ancestors. Please understand that. We're not putting up with that shit. The audacity to build a place of business or put up a building in an island, in an area.
You know, we had this exact same situation happen to us. I'm from Nigeria, for those of you who don't know. In Lagos, the restaurant was built and there were no black people allowed. In a country where everyone is black. It was just the audacity. Kudos to them for what they did, because it's unacceptable. You cannot come. It's like moving into my house and telling me I'm not allowed in my kitchen. Are you mad? Are you mad? Like, the audacity and the mentality to even think it's okay. This is 2022. We are not our fucking parents. We don't tolerate that shit. We don't leave things for God. We burn it down.
So, Asians and Europeans opened up a hotel. Well, they built and opened a hotel in Jamaica and discriminated against the locals. And that being said, and that being the word going on in Jamaica, they burned the hotel to the ground. And I just want to say this. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you open up a hotel in a country or island and that's full of black people and still discriminate against them? That's stupid. That's like me opening up a restaurant in China or Korea or any country in Asia and said no Asians allowed. Doesn't that say something? You guys are constantly trying to single out black people everywhere you go, and you're gonna do it in their own land. It's like they're just asking for it. Y'all just asking for it. Y'all asking to be burnt. You're asking for your stuff to be burned down and be torn apart. And I gotta say, I was satisfied. This is what we need. This is actually what we need. You are not going to go into somebody else's country. You don't give a shit about them. You only give a shit about yourself. Remember, you guys wouldn't even be there if it weren't for them anyway. Y'all can at least show them some appreciation. You start showing some respect and courtesy.
Morning again, are you morning? Me struggle, man. Are you bear with me? I didn't realize that the Zoom had to be updated or changed or something on this system here. And so I'm getting a torrid time right now, getting into Zoom. But bear with me. We're going to get there. We're getting there. We are going to get there. You notice your government is now in Trinidad inviting Guyanese Let me start by saying Guyanese. But if you know let us operate, Guyanese of a specific ethnicity to come back home. Right? And they tell them they're going to take care of every single thing for them. They're going to see them in the villages. Right? They're going to even see them in the villages. To stop them on the street. To resolve their issues. It's an act of desperation. They punish him bad. Right? They punish him bad because the challenge is to get the numbers to support them at elections. They know the numbers dwindling. They know that a lot of their supporters are dissatisfied with them and all of that. Right? Alright, let me see if I've gotten through with this Zoom here. Sometimes I don't know why things give me such a hard time. What is the life? Dr. Hinds, you hear me? Let me in the meeting room there. Can you hear me clearly? Good. That one looks good. All right. Good. Let me see if I'm going to get let into this meeting room now. Means I got work to do in the course of today, right? It happens sometimes. It's technology. Y'all go lighter, me. How? Please let me in the Zoom. It said the host, blah, 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 blah. You know the general thing. Let me in. We're going to talk about it after. Good. That's connecting. All right, so we in. Good. Morning, Doc.
Morning.
I'm not hearing you. You're muted, perhaps.
No, I am. Good morning.
Still not hearing you. What's going on?
I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
But I'm not hearing you. I don't know what's happening exactly. Let me check and see. Speaker. Oh, I think I see what's happening here. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, good. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. You know, technology, these things do their thing when you least expect. But here we are, give thanks. How you been? It's been a while since you were last on BUXTONIAN Morning Time. What going on? Nothing happened since then. How you do?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good, but the country seems to be in a state of sickness. It ain't fine at all. A lot of things have been happening. We got a president who is breaching the constitution in a serial manner. He's a serial breacher of the constitution. And the remedy for that is impeachment. The Working People's Alliance has been calling for civil disobedience. A lot of people seem to be hollering because of that call, including some of your friends or our friends in the political arena. But we're going to talk about them later. Some of the most pressing things in the society right now. Let me start with what might be considered a smallie. I noticed Anil Nandlal in Trinidad pleading with Guyanese there, especially Indo Guyanese, to come back home. Is that a sign of the times? Is that a sign of desperation on the part of the PPP? Is it
no, the PPP is not desperate.
Is it a sign
the
of...
PPP has a plan. It outlined that plan 3 years ago, and a lot of people weren't paying attention. I go back to my point that I keep making. The 5 months impasse, the PPP was able to hoodwink and trick a lot of people who aided it coming to power. Some of us knew very well what the plan was. But many people went along. They got hoodwinked that somebody was rigging the election against the PPP, and in the interest of democracy, they went along with installing the PPP into power. What you ask for is what you get. The PPP is attacking Kaito News and Stabrook News. They aided and abetted the PPP coming to power. They went along with the PPP narrative that the elections were being rigged against them. Today, the PPP is beating them up. They never carried or give credence to what the recount showed. To this day, they deny, they silence what the recount showed. And today, the PPP is beating them up. You had people like Christopher Ram who came down on the side of the PPP in a disputed election. Today they're getting beat up. And many of them couldn't understand that it was regime change. It was a disputed election. And you never put one party in power after disputed election. We are reaping the consequences. PPP is not desperate. Oh, will they be desperate? They have billions of dollars at their disposal. They are in control of GCOM. They're in control of the leadership of the police force and the army. Why would they be desperate? They're in control of the parliament. They're in control of the executive. They're so bold that they don't want to take control of local government.
And so you mentioned local government. They want to take control of local government. But before I go there, so it's not an act of desperation. Is it a part of the plan to dominate? What? Bring it home the votes would give them a superior number? Is that the plan?
The plan, everything the PPP does is in pursuit of the grand master plan. you have a country with more potential wealth than most countries in the world that is going to come in the next 20, 30 years. The PPP intends to use that wealth to reconstruct Guyana into an ethnocracy. You understand what I'm saying? They're going to use that wealth, they intend to use that wealth to empower the elite of their group. And with that economic power, they will be able to control and dominate all other institutions. If the PPP is not stopped very quickly, in the next 20, 25 years, we would not recognize Guyana. African Guyanese would be second-class citizens. You already see the signs. You see some African Guyanese crawling. That is the objective. The objective is to use the wealth to reconstruct the balance of power as we have known it in Guyana. The economic balance of power, and by extension, the political and cultural balance of power. That is what they are after. And African Guyanese stand in their way because it is the largest, second largest ethnic group. It has institutional power. It is a critical mass. And so, in pursuit of domination, you have to neutralize and control African Guyanese. So the PPP is out to neutralize and control African Guyanese in pursuit of ultimate power, which will see African Guyanese, Amerindians, and African Guyanese and Amerindians as second-class citizens in Guyana. We, at the level of the economy, at the level of politics, we will be adopting the American segregation principle of separate but equal. We would be equal under the Constitution, but separate. And that's where the apartheid thing comes in. We'll have separate access to wealth and privilege in Guyana. That is what the PPP is in pursuit of. And everything they do is towards that end.
And so we're seeing the use of the oil resources to buy out, pay their way, buy influence, buy imagery as they continue this quest for domination. One big showcase of the oil funds being used to buy influence, one would say, was Monday morning, or Monday, all through Monday, nomination day. Many of the, well, all of the areas where nominations were taking place, as they would say, were painted in red. We've seen the emergence of a lot of former opposition members in the front lines of the PPP during nomination day. Your take on that?
Well, there are a couple of things there. You see, these big parties, whosoever will may come. you know, they take people in for optics. You know, the PNC will take in Indians, you know, they're big parties, you know, and so they take people in. But the people have no loyalty. They join these parties because these parties are big and powerful and they have things to give away. They have, you know, they can give you jobs. When they're in power, you become parliamentarians with this. So people generally don't have any loyalty. So it's easy for PNC people, or people, let me don't say PNC people, because they're genuine PNC people. But it's easy for some people who went to the PNC, and the PNC, without them coming through the ranks, you know, put power in their hand. And when the other side come and offer them something more, they're gone over. People play games with these parties. If tomorrow the government changes, those people who gone over to the PPP will come back to the PNC and the PNC will take them. So that is part of what is going on there, right? Is that, you know, there are a set of people in both parties who don't have any loyalty to the party. They are recruited. And so when the party has nothing to offer, they're gone by the way. That's one part of it. The second part of it is the PPP is now in a position to offer these people much more than they were ever offered. And so therefore, part of it is the opportunism of some people. And secondly, the capacity of the PPP to buy them. And that is what you saw on display there with those defections from the PNC. If you notice, there were no defections from the PPP to the PNC. The PNC can't buy anybody. The PPP could buy people. No. Are these people going to take votes with them? No. They're opportunists. They're not taking votes. But the optics, first of all, when you are a PNC member and you look up and you see Patricia Chase Green and these are the people defecting, it saps your confidence. I hear people are saying that the PPP will win. You see your people defecting. It saps your confidence. So that's the first effect. And so when people are low on confidence, they either say, if you can't beat them, join them, or they say, I give up. So the impact of the defections would mean that the PNC will have to work 10 times harder to get the people out to the polls, because it's about turnout. Local government election is about turnout. Who can turn out their base? And turnout is usually low. And black people all over the world, not just in Guyana, you have to convince them to go to the polls, especially in a time when their confidence is low. So the PPP will have a hard time. Sorry, the PNC will have to work 10 times harder to get their people out to the poll. I don't think crossover votes is going to determine this election. I don't see a critical mass of black people crossing over to the PPP. They will pay some people who will go and vote for them, you know. But the challenge to the PNC's turnout, and you all have heard me on this program say over and over again, if you don't mobilize people and you wait for the election to mobilize them, you will get to the election and you look around and you don't got people. I've said that thing 51 times on this program. When you're in opposition, you have to keep your people mobilized. You have to keep them mobilized. Can't wait until the election. So one of the errors I think that was made on our side is that we just wait for an election. We in the WP have been saying there are things happening in the society, can't wait for an election. You have to keep your people mobilized. And so when an election come around, they just slip easily into voting mode because they are mobilized. If you're not mobilizing them, and come election time, when turnout matters, and people are low on confidence, it's the devil's job to get them out there.
Dr. Hinds, you said those defectors are not taking votes. But you spoke about the imagery. What would you say the impact of that imagery is on supporters of the opposition, the minds of young people, for example? They're not taking votes with them, perhaps. But how do these defections impact the ordinary rank and file citizen?
Well, I just said it. Brother Kedaki, I just said it.
Is it just about the votes?
The first thing, it saps the confidence of the opposition side. When you see these people defecting and you see the parading of these people in your mind, you begin to feel that all is lost. It saps the confidence. And once the confidence is sapped, then it's hell to get people to go out. There's some people who will say, let me go and join. If you can't beat them, join them. They're small. They're very, very tiny. A minority of people will do that. But the majority of people, for them, is a confidence thing.
So they may not take the votes with them, but the voters...
They suppress your vote.
Yes.
They suppress your vote.
Right. Good. And that too is, that has its own impact on...
Well, the impact of that, because local government elections is all about turnout. Because it's a low turnout election. And in low turnout election, whoever can get more of their people wins an election in low turnout.
But do you think, we know that it's accepted by now that local government elections are low turnout here, and who can get more of the people out? Is this local government elections going to be based strictly on turnout? Or as I argue, as a lot of us argue, the system is already rigged to give the people...
No, we're not talking about the rigged system. The rigged system is another matter, right? We are assuming that all is equal in the election. So your first line of action is to get your people out there. And the more people you get out there, because when you talk about the rigging of the system, the more you get your people out there, the more you're able to withstand the rigging. Because remember, riggers don't rig 100%. Riggers may figure, look, I can rig 3 seats. But if the larger your turnout, you're able to nullify the rigging. If the rigging is big and expansive, yes, turnout is not going to be able to overcome the rigging. But remember, the kind of rigging we have now in Guyana are what we call surgical rigging. You look for one seat here or one seat there, and so on. And so you can withstand that rigging, you can overcome that rigging with high turnout. Look at the last election, the general election. With all the rigging the PPP did, they were only able to get one seat majority. Now at the turnout for the APNU, AFC, was it a 10% more? Because the average turnout, I think, was about 77%. If we could have gotten 87% of all people out, we would have been able to overcome the rigging. Remember, we warned, because we went around the coast. We held about 20-something meetings, and we concluded that about 15 to 20% of our people weren't tuned in. And we told our partners that. And we suggested to them, you all better apologize to these people. I am confident. And they apologized to people and said, you know, we did a lot, but there was more that we could have done. And, you know, go and talk directly or send the WPA to go and talk to those people and convince them. And we had, if we had gotten 82 to 85% turnout, we would have been able to overcome the rigging. Because the PPP rigged to get enough to give them a 1-seat, 2-seat majority.
Is it too late for that apology?
That's neither here nor there now. You know, we are into new territory.
All right. And we're talking about those about that new territory. We're saying that the PPP paid heavily to get those people into those red T-shirts. Ali is saying they didn't pay.
What?
We are saying, or the evidence is out there, let me dare say, that a lot of people were seen in the red T-shirts on nomination day. Were either coerced in terms of the 10-day-a-month workers, for example. They were issued instructions that they must turn up to this event or they're going to lose pay. Then there's some who said they were paid between $10,000 and $20,000 to wear those T-shirts. People are putting that information out there, but Ali as president is saying, no, I'm not aware of us paying anybody to do anything. We see, for example, that young footballer, along with 4 others, being given a contract a few days before nomination day to clean gutters in Agricola, turning out on the PPP's nomination parade. The use of the oil money, we always say that the PPP is going to use it to buy influence. Where does that put the society currently in terms of treating with the PPP, the use of the oil money, the lack of accountability, and buying influence in total? Let me throw into that mix there. The Marriott is up for sale. I noticed that the highest bidder for the Marriott is a friend of Sarah Lynch, is a friend of the government. Oil money, elections, corruption. Your thoughts on that combination?
There's plenty of money, there's going to be corruption. That goes without saying. I mean, there was corruption when we didn't have plenty of money. And now we have plenty of money, there's going to be more corruption. But I think you were going to ask, I think you were asking, how does this buying an African? Because that's what it is. You're not buying Indians. Indians would go vote for the PPP because it's their party, majority, the vast majority of them. So you don't have to buy them. You know, so you have to buy an African. And it is going to cause a lot of divisions in the black community. Because you're not going to be able to buy the majority. And the minority who you're buying have to go back into those communities. And they're going to be uncomfortable. So it will cause a lot of fighting in the black community, a lot of division. in the black community. It's going to make the black community very unstable. And that helps the PPP because you're dividing them. You're dividing your opponents. You know you can't buy all of them, but you buy enough to either entice others or to cause trouble in the black community. Either way, the PPP is getting through with the plan. The plan is either to neutralize or control. If you can't control, you neutralize. And you neutralize them by dividing them and let them fight among themselves. So it is destabilizing the black community. That is why it doesn't like us when we talk about racial solidarity. Because when you speak directly to black people and begin to tell them about the significance and the history behind what the PPP is trying to do, and you begin to talk to them about their dignity, you're not going to stop the few from going and sell their dignity, but you're going to stop the many from going and sell their dignity. That is why they don't like us to talk about race. See, if you talk to black people about gender or class and you tell them their PPP is treating that way because they're poor, you know, people don't have a cultural response to social class. People have a cultural response to their ethnic and racial dignity. People respond in spiritual ways, in emotional ways to race and ethnicity. They don't respond in that way to class and gender. You're going to tell people, well, you know, you're suffering because you're a woman. And they will say yes, but there's not a cultural response to that. Or you tell them, well, you know, you're suffering because you're poor. Yes, they will tell you yes, but there's not a cultural response to social class. But when you speak to people and show them how their dignity and their honor is being beaten up, they have a cultural and a spiritual response to it. That is why the PPP don't like us to talk about race. And if you're an electoral party, you wouldn't talk about race. Because when you talk about race in Guyana, we talk about racial pride and racial dignity. The other side will say you're racist. They redefine the meaning of racism in Guyana. You know, you're racist. And that will mean that the voters from the other side are not likely to come over. So you find the political parties don't like to talk about race. And when you don't talk about race, you don't connect to the emotions of your people. And so your people are easily picked off. Those who don't have racial consciousness. It's about racial consciousness. That's why I don't bother with them. They can call me racist till the cow come home. They know, and I know, that what is going to stand between total domination by the PPP and common sense equality in that country is racial consciousness. If black people don't have racial consciousness, you pick them off easy. If black people have racial consciousness, or Indian people have racial consciousness, they can be picked off easily. They know that, and they know I know that. And I don't give a hell how they call me racist. I am not going to go down in history as standing by and allowing the sons and daughters of my ancestors to be picked off like slaves. I'm not going to do that. You can call me racist a million times. I'm going to appeal to their consciousness. I'm going to appeal to their sense of dignity and appeal to their culture. It's only that will stop black people from being picked off cultural consciousness. And politicians don't like to talk about race. And I explain why. In a multi-ethnic society, you always, the PPP talks about race. But the PPP develop their own relationship with their constituency. First of all, their constituency is not vulnerable because, you see, they deal in race. Indian people have racial consciousness when they go to church. In the temple on their mandirs, they got their racial consciousness there. So Indian people are not unconscious about their racial heritage as black people are. So the PPP's job, the PPP can talk about communism as Jagan did for a long time. Jagan was a communist. And communists don't believe in religion and race. They say race is false consciousness. But Jagan was a communist who got the loyal support of Indians, including Indian capitalists. Because the Indian capitalists followed Jagan based on racial consciousness. He could live with Jagan communism. In the same way, the vast majority of Indian people know that Jagdio is a scamp. They know that. They know that he's a scamp. He's an SOB. But from a cultural standpoint, what he represents is the Indian Gurkha, the Indian who's going to stand up to black people. And they're prepared to rally behind him for that. That is what Jagdio means for Indian people. In a deep cultural way, if Jagan were a Hindu, or I think GUYANA said that, if Jagan were a Hindu, he would have been an even better leader. Jagdio also is not a practicing Hindu, but what he represents is strength and pompousness. And remember, Indians are measuring themselves against us, and they always longed for an Indian pompous leader to stand up to black people. So the PPP's work is not that difficult because there's a sense of cultural consciousness on our side. We elected, or the PNC people, he elected Aubrey Norton to be the pompous black man to match Jagdio. They elected Granger because he came from the army. You see, groups always look for strength in their leaders.
Thank you.
But you see, there is no, the level of consciousness is not being encouraged by the political parties. They don't encourage racial consciousness.
So let's
among black.
Sorry, I thought you were done. Let's in that whole analysis of domination and separation and buying of the African man, African for sale, we see the continued thrust of the PPP to divide and weaken the African Guyanese community, set the cats among the pigeon, and all kinds of things like that. The most blatant recently for me is what they did with APARTHEID. I read a statement to the extent of Anil Nandal saying, listen, 2022 subvention to APARTHEID is still before the courts, but 2023 is not. And so we have decided as government we're going to look for the individual organizations that form the APARTHEID and give them the subvention in a piecemeal way. Each group will get a certain portion of the subvention. How I read it as trying to break up APARTHEID, but let's look at the overall impact of that decision by the government, and more so if these individual organizations go ahead and accept this money.
It is consistent with the PPP's praxis. Remember what they did at Moko? When they went to Moko, they bypassed the Moko leaders, the MP and the NDC chairman. And they're playing on people's vulnerability, and they're dividing the communities. There's no black community in Guyana today that is not divided. The PPP is deliberately doing that. They're dividing the black, and if you divide them, if you divide us, then we are less effective. It's a deliberate strategy. And it's a strategy that is enabled with money. It's enabled. The PPP has the money. You see this? Once you divide the community, the sense of community doesn't matter anymore. It's every man for himself, every woman for himself, for self. Individualism. Whenever communities are in trouble, individualism rises to the top. And that is what, when you want to divide and rule, you introduce and you further the sense of individualism, and you pick off individuals. See, you break up community. And when you break the community up, you encourage individualism. And as individuals, it's easy to pick them off. The PPP has studied when those people lost power in 2015. They fought among themselves a couple morning, and then they quickly consolidated. And they plotted not just their return to power, they plotted how to retain power. We lost power, our side, the opposition, lost power in 2020. And we are still fighting. We are still fighting. We have not, we did not fight for a couple of morning and then said, let us sit down and plot how to get back power and how to retain power. We have not. And part of what the PPP is doing and why they're getting through is because there is not much resistance to them. See, as soon as the WPA offered some resistance, you see how they've started to scurry around and start pulling out all the stops. Could you imagine if the PNC was out there with the WPA laying down the riot act to them? You could imagine what would have happened. But you got people now on the opposition side cussing the WPA. What for? I don't know. And the PPP is laughing. So the PPP's success with their thrust is partly due to our inability as opposition to put our differences aside and work towards stopping the PPP. You see how, Ravidev and all them Indian people cussing us and telling us how we reject elections? They understand. They understand what we are doing. They want us to talk about elections. They want us to tell black people, sit down and wait for elections. And the minute you say, yeah, elections are important, but we got some business to take care of. No, they get jittery on the other side. If the PNC and the AFC and the WPA were all speaking that language, Guyana would be a different place today. But as the young people are saying, we got it twisted. We are fixated on elections as end in themselves. And we are not seeing elections as part of a menu. You have elections, and then you have non-electoral struggle. You have electoral struggle, you have non-electoral struggle. It's part of a larger menu. The PPP would be a different story. It would be a different story. But even with all of that, what the PPP is doing is not sustainable. At some point, they will either choke or somebody, some group outside of the political parties will choke them. It's not sustainable. And perhaps they understand that, that's why they're moving so fast. Because they know that at some point they will choke, or some group of citizens not connected with parties will just, rise up and choke them.
It seems they're afraid of the press doing that. Well, they have been able to...
No, they're not afraid of the press, Kidaki. Those people are not afraid of anything.
Guys, allow me to finish the man. Why you don't
Yes.
I said it seems. I didn't say they are. It seems.
Well, I'm answering your seems.
Because...
To say they're not afraid of the press.
All right. We know that they control the majority of the press. They have influence in all of them. Recently, we saw this attack on a member of the press association. I think the young lady's name is Davina Bagot, working for Kaicho News. If they are not afraid of the press choking them, why this brutal attack?
The attack on that lady is an attack, not an attack on the press. It's an attack on Glenn Lal.
Explain. Tell us more. We want to understand. The press, we want to understand
the traditional press in Guyana are lame. They go to a press conference, they don't ask no searching questions. They allow Jack Dio and Ali to tell them, and you look in some of the newspapers, you see DPI report is what they're carrying. No investigative journalism. On the Ogunse thing, the establishment has not talked to the WPA, never carried the WPA view. They carried the police report on that matter. What press? The press in Guyana is lame. They went after that lady because she works to Kaicho News, and at least Glenn Lal is squeezing them on oil. He's not squeezing them on other things. He's squeezing them on oil and corruption. And And so when they attack that lady, it's to scare off Ben Lal, not the press.
So the entire press association came out and condemned this this attack. Did they fail to recognize what it really was?
Who cares? Who cares about what the press association condemned? I'm not saying they shouldn't condemn. They have every right to condemn. But who cares?
It's 30 minutes past it. I want to address one last thing before I open up the lines. Of course, if you have anything else you would like to discuss, you're free to introduce that. WP has been saying, listen, use June 12th as a day of resistance against the kind of fraudulent elections that GCOM is likely to deliver and so on. A lot of people are for and against the call of the WP. As a matter of fact, I am featuring a boycott the elections petition on my page, and it's gathering a lot of signatures. I listened to GHK last evening on your program saying, well, when he looks at the current situation, he is starting to think that the WPA call for a boycott of the elections, June 12 being a day of resistance, is leaning more towards agreeing with that. What are your thoughts on all of these, the pros and cons of boycotting the election, the pros and cons of going into the elections?
Well, one has to make a distinction between non-participation and boycott. We have to scale down. Once the PNC takes part, no opposition group should be telling people don't go vote for the PNC, because what you're in fact telling them is to turn over local power to the PPP. I mean, that's the dilemma we find ourselves in. That is why opposition unity is so important. And as you know, we've been trying for the last 2 years to forge some sense of unity. We managed to do it. We held 2 meetings, one at Golden Grove, one at Parade Ground, and then the thing collapsed. And if you, on these matters, you cannot have a divided opposition. It's either all or we boycott, or all or we go to the elections. Once some say we are not participating, and some say we are participating, those who are not participating cannot say to people, don't go and vote for the APNU. That's crazy, even though we know it's the wrong thing. We know that we should not be in those elections. But you have to understand the PNC took a pragmatic position. There's what you call a principled position. And the principled position is not to participate in rigged elections. The pragmatic approach is to participate as a means of keeping the PPP. You imagine if PPP take control of local government. They already have control of central government. Now you're giving them total control of local government. You know what is that? Unless you have the capacity to make the country ungovernable. You see, once you boycott something, you have to have the capacity to prevent the side who gets in by default. You have to have the capacity to prevent them from governing. That is what we are up against. If you had a total boycott of the opposition, then it would be easier to make the local authorities ungovernable. The PPP, the PNC, obviously may have concluded that they don't want to go down that road, or they don't have the capacity, so they take the next line of defense, and that is to pragmatically participate. You participate in your strongholds. So in a sense, the PNC is participating in the elections as a form of protest. As a form of protest against total domination by the PPP. And the WPA and the AFC are staying out of the elections as a form of protest against the crooked electoral arrangements. So the PNC is protesting against the PPP using the local government elections as a staging, jumping off spot for further domination. And by going into the elections, at least they stand a chance of stopping that. So they are going in under duress in protest against the PPP's domination plan. And the WPA and the AFC are protesting against another part of the domination plan, which is the rigged electoral architecture. But these three parties are not sitting down and coordinating. If they sit down and coordinate, they'll be able to iron out these things that I'm talking about. All of them are protesting. All of them are protesting the election. The PNC is participating as a form of protest. The WP and the AFC are staying out as a form of protest. You can have AFC and WPA cannot be crazy to go and tell people boycott. We have to stop using that term boycott. The boycott now has to be taken off the table. Because when if the PNC were to lose in some of those NDCs that are close, they will have every right to blame the WPA and for telling people don't go out and vote. WPA has to be very careful. Has to be very careful. It has to be, if people of their own conscience don't want to go out, and the majority of people will not go out because it's local government. We don't have a local government culture in Guyana. So people are going to stay away in large numbers based on that. But now for one opposition party to say we are participating and another opposition party to say we are telling people not to go out and vote, that will be total craziness.
So the PNC has forced the hands of those who don't want to endorse the election.
The what?
So the PNC has forced the hands of those.
No. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not that simplistic.
That's what I'm asking.
I am not saying that. I am looking at the total dynamic. The PNC is going into these elections under duress. They're not forcing nobody's hand. They're going in under duress. They're going in under protest. They're not forcing nobody's hand.
What can we achieve?
It is, hold on. It is the PPP's objective of total domination that is shaping everything. I guess that's what you mean by forcing hand. If anybody is forcing anybody hand, it's the behavior of the PPP. When I look at the PPP and look at how they are buying people and aggressively going after domination, I have to say, well, no, I can't enable that. I can't enable that. So the PNC is not forcing anybody on. The PPP are forcing all of we on.
I was about to ask, how does participating in these elections, with the questionable machinery and all of that, despite the arguments of stopping the runaway train, contribute to the struggle to get the voters list cleaned, get a better
It does not. It does not contribute. That's what I'm saying. It's a pragmatic position, my brother.
Getting free, fair, and credible general elections.
That is why I'm saying that the PNC, the AFC, and the WPA are not participating based on the fact that the election machinery is not credible. If all things were equal and we had the capacity or the willingness to boycott, you don't boycott, don't participate in election and sit down. When the other party gets in by default, you have to make it difficult for them or impossible for them to govern. And the PNC must have concluded that it either does not have that capacity or it doesn't want to go that way. What next do? You pragmatically go in and participate in your strongholds.
It's 24 minutes past 8 o'clock.
If Georgetown and Linden and New Amsterdam falls to the PPP, it's not the AFC and the WPA will get beat up for that. It's the PNC will get beat up for that. So you have to understand the PNC's position. You don't have to agree with it. You have to understand it. Nobody's going to beat us up for the fall of Georgetown or Linden or New Amsterdam. They'll beat up the PNC. If you have the capacity and the will to make the local governments ungovernable, yes, let's all boycott. The FC and the WPA by themselves don't have that capacity. They have the will. The WPA has the will. I don't know about the FC. The WPA has the will to make the local authorities ungovernable. But we don't have the capacity. We have to be frank about that.
Thank you. 26 minutes past 8 o'clock hour. You have anything else you want to talk about, or should I open up the lines?
No, open up the lines.
Okay, callers, the lines are now open. You're free to call. It's Guyanese morning time for you. You're tuned in. Dr. Hinds is on with us this morning. We were talking about elections and APARTHEID and misbehavior of the government and so on. Personal attack on journalists and the march of domination of the PPP. The lines are
If I were those 55 groups, I would take the money and turn it over to APARTHEID. And that would be my call. They want to give the money to groups, give them. And I will say to those groups, turn the money over to APARTHEID. We shall see who are patriots and who are not patriots. As Bob Marley said, soon we'll find out who's the real revolutionary, because I don't want my people to be tricked by mercenaries. That is my call to the organizations. Take the money and give it to APARTHEID.
All right, let's
see of the 55, how many will do that?
Let's take a call. It's something I want to come back to after this call. Call A Live, good morning.
I would like to take on the attacks of the the PNC in relations to recent developments. Let me say that to the PNC that this is not intended to cause any divisions amongst our people, but it's rather to say to the PNC quite clearly, it is you who give up power. Whether you like it or not, it is you who voluntarily gave up power to the PPP. And you have us all in this now. So you cannot blame the WPA for any stance it take. You understand? You cannot blame the WPA for any stance it take. The WPA has been, for recent, the only political party on the opposition that is carrying the scheme to the PPP. Just the other day, Brother Ogun say, just utter a couple of words, and the whole world, the United Nations, the United States, Britain, and all these other countries want to know if Guyana gone to war. Gone to war. They have set this country with your action, PNC. You have set the black people in this country to suffer immensely. A lot of these parliamentarians will be able to afford all these luxury vehicles and all these luxury life they're having. Think about the ordinary man on the street today. And I'm speaking on behalf of the ordinary people in this country. Can you take a walk and go down Georgetown and sit down with these men who just be drinking beers or on the street corners? Just sit down as an ordinary person and listen to the pain of the people of this country. Until now, the leader of the PNC has not come to this nation and say we apologize. We know we went wrong. Of the leader of the PNC that made that terrible blunder. I know during Desmond Height, whenever anything, you would call his people to the coffee square and give them direction and say what is to be done. Today, everybody gone helter-skelter. That is why I'm looking at it as a technical, it was wrong what they did, but I'm looking at Patricia, Chase Green, and the other one. They gone over. Why you think they were left there? The ladies are playing. They're divided. And people looking for the bread and butter. I mean, I will not. Because I know for eat China rice, I know for cook China rice. I know for throw a gas net. Who else know to do that? You gotta face the reality. I'm not bashing the PNC because we face a common enemy. And I will give them my support, but you have to recognize where you went wrong in order to correct yourself. And to Mark Benchop, don't be bashing the WPA. Don't be bashing the WPA because you yourself, Mark, I'm saying it again, used to be cussing out the PNC on 6 and 9 on breakdown. Desmond High time. You yourself used to be doing that. Later, Kedaki. Have a nice day, sir.
Thank you for your call. Look, guys, I said I wanted to talk about that apology, the suggestion of them collecting the money and give it to the organization as individuals. I think there are lots of things. You hear me, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think that's fraught with danger, if I can call it that. We know for a fact that they likely suggested 100% of them will not do it. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of these problems faced by Apology came out with a lot from a lot of these member groups being discontented, turning to the government, crying out to the government, etc., etc. What most importantly for me is the fact that last year's subvention is before the court. However, the court rules on that, the treatment of that subvention, I think should have an impact on how subvention for this year and following years are treated. Right? And since the subvention was passed in the National Assembly for a Pada G, how is it possible or even right for individuals to get that money?
Not individuals, you mean groups?
Well, individual groups, as against the organization. The subvention was aimed at the organization.
It's illegal. Like in any real court, the government would not be able to start. Huh?
Go ahead.
In any real court, the government would not be able to justify doing that, but they're going to do it. They have ignored the court before. And my suggestion is based on the assumption that they will do it, in spite of it being illegal. So I'm not disagreeing with you, and it's not fraught with no danger. They're going to do it and get away with it too.
How should those organizations be treated with that?
Those organizations should take the money and give it to it.
Sometimes you have to allow me to finish the question, otherwise you're going to answer what I didn't ask.
Okay.
We know that some organizations might very well take the money and not give it over to the party.
More the licorice. And we always had licorice people among us.
Call A Live, good morning.
Yes, good morning to both of you guys and all my black brothers and sisters. With that money problem, the other organizations should not receive it and let them know. Put it where it's supposed to go. Our name is not there, was not there. And the name who UN signed for and everything, put it to that organization. That's what we black people must do. And stop making these coolie people them continue call us fools. Let them call us fools for yesterday, but don't make them call us fool every day. And I want to say something concerning someone listening on your program. Somebody said, but WP is a 5-man army. But the 5-man army is powerful than 6-man army and 25 army. Because one of the 5-man army, if you could go to his gate and ask for help, the same 5-man party does help what flashcard know about. You see, what Mr. Granger Prasad did to the 5-man party, that neck is out of office. Don't cut me off. Listen to this here. He tell one of the 5-man party what you bring to the table. But today, we all could see that people, what the 5-man party bring to the table and continue to bring to the table and say, the 5-man party tell us plain, he will not sacrifice his black brothers and sisters for no Passover vote. If they want to vote, thank God. We appreciate it. Because why? We are one people, one nation, one destiny. If Granger will keep his eyes on what he have on the table, he would have been in office today, and our black children and grandparents wouldn't be punching today. Granger, remind me the story of the dog and the bone. We all know the story of the dog and the bone. Arman do the same thing too. When a businessman went to Guyana when Arman was in office to talk about the business, Arman asked the man, what you bring to the table, you guys don't bring nothing to the table. That meant both of them is out of office for them because they keep focus on somebody for bring something more on the table. Use and protect what you already have. Because the 5-man party, they do a good part because they encourage their family, their friends, and neighbors to vote. So you already have something there on the table. This is our biggest problem today. We always look for somebody thing and don't keep and invest what we have to get more. We must stop that nonsense. Politicians have to stop that nonsense. Because you will never beat PPP out of office if you're all telling each other what you bring to the table. Nonsense. That is not politics and politics. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your call. Anything you want to respond to, Dr. Hinds?
Both callers are on target. The first caller mentioned Chase Green and the other girl that got over to the PPP. And I don't sympathize with them. If they're vexed with the PNC, they got the AFC, they could have gone join. They could have gone join the AFC. When you gone over the PP, it's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. You're opportunist. If you are annoyed with the PNC, but you believe in the cause of justice for your black brothers and sisters, and you're representing your constituency, go join the AFC and perhaps the WPA. You go over to the PPP, no sympathy. No sympathy. They got people, black people, been in the PPP for 20 years, 30 years. I'm not talking down them. They're in the PPP long. They obviously have something in common with the PPP. I'm talking about these recent ones. These ones who are now selling themselves. They're the ones who we have to make uncomfortable. So I don't buy the thing that, because of the division in the PNC, Chase Green left. Well, the division, go. Chase Green, when she left the PNC, years back, she went to GGG. It's Hamilton Green Party. She got into the council on. And then when Hamilton Green went back in the PNC, she went in the PNC. But you can't do the same thing this time. You vex with the PNC, go join the AFC. Or, I don't want to say the WPA because I don't think somebody like that would survive in a party like the WPA. But go join the AFC. You go and join the other side. That is opportunism.
Indeed, opportunism. There's another option. I always say there's the option of just staying out of politics, if you want to call it that. These are people
or be an independent.
These are people who have been in the front line of politics and PNC politics and reap what many of us would say a lot of benefits. And so they're supposed to be, quote unquote, well set enough to just stay in the background even if they don't want to support the PNC anymore, or they don't want to go into that daily struggle for the PNC. Just retire from politics. It's time. You've had your time in the sun. Caller, thank you for holding. You're live.
The meeting on Sunday at Crutchlow, where I went and I spoke to my Indian brothers. You gave Ganesh a task. Well, up to now he hasn't. You didn't give me a task, but I thought it best to go because so at a certain time I heard that because of my statement at the meeting at Buxton has further fractured the fragile PNC because of what I said against Indians in Guyana. Moving along. Now with many people, when they have like skeletons in the closet, I may see children doing bad thing, husband doing bad thing, wife doing bad thing, they usually seek cover in a criminalized installed regime, because if we should comb the history and the habits and the behavioral patterns of those in the PPP installed regime, it is very questionable, not only in Guyana, but the world at large, because the installed president, 19 fraud charges in the government, Winsett stealing of the law books, converting lots of taxpayers' money into IBF and trying to get pregnant. And then you have Barrett with a list of over 1,400 black African brothers being slaughtered, many of them gone without a trace. So then you got them questionable characters. You seek solace in the PPP party. Now, sir, there is no problem with Chase Green. I could remember Henry Jeffrey when he was all against PNC. He used to talk it. I had a close-up thing with him, going to him, and what he said to me, I will keep it to my dying day. I wouldn't repeat it. God's known. We had a woman who was a PNC member, was looking to become a minister, and because PNC was kicked out, overthrown by a coup in this election, she joined forces against PNC with the PPP and claim a set of thing. I think the girl is Tandai McAllister. So we are accustomed to them jumping ship at the time when they are needed to help right the ship. Now coming back to Nazima Ragabir, I'm not sorry for her.
Rhonda.
Because when I went
Rhonda.
and I
Rhonda.
just now,
Rhonda.
Yeah.
Rhonda.
Yeah.
You addressed Nazima yesterday. Move on. Thank you.
Okay. Now remember, I told you about the problem that we had with our community center. Now there is where programs break down. We came to the consensus that they were supposed to return the key to the management committee. Anyway, one of the members collected the key for the community center that has a problem. Because if we go back, the minister came, they got they cut open all the locks. And we had a meeting, we said, they got to come now and hand over back to us because we had things in the building. But anyway, one of the members collected the key from the person who had it from since November on to Sunday. Nothing is being done. But I hope when we take stock, if things are being lost, they will replace. Because in government or in any, that is not your house key. That is a community key. And if you take it back, you should be there to do a handing over and a taking over system. Because that is how things are being done and it moves smoothly along. And when it comes to the people who went on the wear the red, many of them were forced into it. Some of them were told they will be given the $5,000. When they finish wearing the clothes and hollering one Guyana all around the place, they were now told that you ain't getting no $5,000. You were to work 10 days for the month. And the one day that you went and wear the red, you will be paid, but you do not have to work for this $5,000. So there again, the PPP has duped them all. So lots of them will not be having a literally $5,000 plus the 40. They will be getting the 40 and no $5,000. All they get is a box of food and a juice. And now lots of them are being victimized for what they did. So there again, the PPP has dealt another blow into unsuspecting Africans. And that's the way the PPP look to destroy people who are supposed to be a strong people. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your call. You have some voice notes. Let me play one.
Hey, good morning, Kentucky. Good morning, Dr. Hinds. Dr. Hinds, I've said on numerous occasions on this very program that the PPP is using a lot of psychology in order to demoralize the Guyanese people. I've said that over and logical approach that the PPP is taking, we will be in trouble all the time. Dr. Hinds, a question that I have is how is it that the so-called guardians of democracy is able to move from governing by democracy to governing through tyranny. Is democracy dying or dead? And how do we fix it?
Call it live.
Morning, neighbor. Morning, my brother. Morning, Dr. Hinds. Morning.
Good morning.
Now, the WPA, you guys, y'all have done a great job trying to convince the people of this country of the way forward. Of course, everybody did not in favor of the suggestions that y'all was making, which was a valid one, to boycott the elections, and it would have put a bigger strain on the installed wicked regime. It would have put a bigger stain on them. But the thing about it didn't go the way that most people would like it to go. The main opposition party, which is the party that we all support, they contested the elections, and as they rightfully say, Dr. Hinds, is that we can't go down the road no more encouraging people not to take part. They got to go out. But the thing about it, they must remove, and this is now, we don't want this, we ain't wishing for this to happen. We would like to know the coalition, our party, the party that we support, the party that more favor over the wicked regime, we would like to know the succeed. We honestly, I know you, Dr. Hinds, you honestly would like that. I know you, Brother Kadaki, you honestly would like that. I know Brother Ugunze and everybody else would love that. I know Apostle Landon is not a man that supports the AP and UAFC or according to he said no political party, but he favor the coalition over the wicked regime. So we don't want them to fail. But should that happen, that they fail, they must be able to know that they mustn't think about blaming nobody, because this was put forward to them already. What we got to do now is what Dr. Hinds say, what Dr. Hinds suggests, what we see coming, that let we move aside and let the PPP come through and fall, because it is going to fall. Let we move aside and let it crash, because this thing what you see going now, with this manipulation and this bullyism and them kind of thing where you see just for the photo ops, for show the rest of the world that we are racial and thing. This thing we see they doing, them go on, like when little children, when you give them the own way, they don't stop at nothing. This is what happen with the PPP. And all them we see run over and gone, and thing is now wishing. But a terrible ending, a terrible shame there for them, because you know what happened? The hardcore supporters, them, which most of them is Indians of the PPP, were looking for a position and getting none. Them and getting none because the PPP stifling Indians too. The hardcore of them, we see them, then they going to start balling when they see invasion start coming in. I see a girl talk on TV, talk on social media and say that is where all them people going. All them people they say wasn't to get jail will come from coalition. How they end up here we party, and plenty song like that gonna keep coming out. Plenty, because they will feel that they're getting jostled out of their own party, and they will feel. And you know what gonna happen? The big wigs them, Barajagdio and all them gonna got to respond to them same people, because they know that them is patriotic people, and if they said they would turn the back, they know that they would do it. Them Indians, they would do it. So what will happen? They will have to push out all them where you see jump ship and running, looking for a space, running, because people like Patricia Green and them and go there for be normal scapegoat. They're gonna push in the head and the mouth. They're gonna push in themselves a lot. Because this is what they're accustomed to. This is what they're accustomed to. And they're coming for a great embarrassment. They're coming for a great embarrassment. That times we got to move the 5-man party come out. Imagine as 5 man and they create havoc verbally. They create havoc. The PPP turn the whole attention around them. They laugh them first and say 5-man party when they just come out. Look, and they start to trail. If Kadaki go here and keep meeting, they come behind and keep meeting. So just tell that the 5-man party got venom in them. You understand? So what we're going to do is move aside and allow the PPP to come crashing down. It is going to come crashing down because what they're going on with, it is that they will come crashing down. And you know, we got prepared that times for help some of them because I know we got a soft heart. We got a soft heart because we preach truth and right. Yeah, let's preach truth and right, Brother Kadaki. Yeah, let's preach truth and right, Dr. Hinds. And y'all got to prepare with a soft heart for rescue some of them racy things. Have a good day. Enjoy the show. And then we watch and see what will go on.
Thank you for your call. Dr. Hinds, you have at least one question to answer there from the previous caller.
Yes. And the previous call is right. The majoritarian democracy cannot work in Guyana. It's a death of majoritarian democracy. What we need in this country is a consensus democracy, not a 50+1 democracy. It must be a 70% democracy so that no party would be able to do what the PPP is doing on its own. The PPP is doing this because of majoritarian democracy. So we need a consensus democracy. The PPP is killing majoritarian democracy because majoritarian democracy assumes that the majority will govern in the interest of the minority. And we are seeing that the PPP is not governing in the interest of the minority. So majoritarian democracy has been killed by the PPP.
Thank you, Dr. Hinds. Let me say, somebody, Earl, I think I saw just cycling Earl. This thing is not about how long it takes, you know. Yes, the moderator determines whether or not you'll get to speak a 15, 20, half hour and so on. But if the brother was making a point, or points that were making sense, that's where the conversation is. Not just about coming on to speak for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 25 minutes, right? You have to listen to the context of the conversation. And I think most of us are here to learn. And so we would rather the conversation go for a little time so we get the full gist of it rather than cutting it midway. There are many others who are not here for that reason also. Call your life. Thank you for holding.
Some people don't like substance. Some people just like crumbs. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
You know, I got a name for y'all. Y'all behaving like the EFF of South Africa. This 5-man thing causing havoc could cause a whole shutdown. But my advice to people, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk, who is one of my favorite guys that I listen to, he got a thing he loves to say, I love losing. Because whenever I lose, I come back real hard, tough and rough, and I beat people up. For all of those who think that they've been demoralized and everything by seeing all of those red, it's time you get up and use that as motivation. And for every one red that you see, you need to go and influence 10 other different colors to attack that red and go to that polling station and do what you have to do. Do what you have to do and embarrass them. This is what we have to do. Use that red as a motivation. Beautiful. We do that, it's a win. So if they think that they won, they're lying. Right? You have so many people, you know, you go to a race and you see the horse jumping up and springing around. When the horse starts the first for long, you can't even reach around the corner. We need to put that on in there. So people use that red as motivation. And we're going to show them that red going to fade, that going color could run out. There's no permanent color. So we're going to deal with them. Have a good day, gentlemen.
Thank you for your call. You have more voice notes.
Good morning, Kudakian listeners. Once again, I tell you, Gully people racism there.
Hello, line.
And the DNA. And when it's in the DNA, they just indoctrinate the young ones. A black man is a bad man. A little man hold you when he passing out the village. Them kind of thing.
Caller, thank you for your call. You're live.
Hello?
Caller, you're live.
Morning, Kadaki. Morning, Dr. Hinds. And morning, Guyana. For both of you gentlemen and the rest of Guyana, is it in fact that for 23 years that the PPP have been corrupt and they were not held accountable for their corruption and murderous tactics? So here they are back again, and it seems like they're not being held accountable. Again, what they have done with the APARTHEID is illegal. But all I am hearing is that we should take the money and let the other African organization give the money to APARTHEID. But that is not a good thing to do. You're dividing, and what they have done successfully is divide us. So again, we're letting them off the hook by suggesting that, as opposed to, in my estimation, taking them to court. And I hope that Mr. Alexander will do exactly that. Because again, we have been an appeasing type of people and always want to take the high road. And that have already contributed to our downfall as a people, because we are always wanting to do the right thing. Again, I listen to your program, and what G.K. Lal says, well, APARTHEID have taken a principled stand. And when are we going to get off this high horse? And you have to meet fire with fire. So, in my opinion, we just basically have to stop being an appeasing people, because we are already in a sad state in Guyana, especially for African Guyanese. So the longer we try to finesse our issues that are taking place, is the longer it's going to take for us to free ourselves. Scorched-earth policy, we don't want to go down that way, because guess what? We rather appease. I mean, at some point, we're going to have to stop that crap and take the fight to the people. And that's why they're able to do what they're doing, because there is no resistance to the racist, corrupt, murderous way of doing things in Guyana. And we talked about where Africans are going to be second-class citizens. We are already there. And how is recession? How is a recession? We know we're in a recession after it passed. Same thing with us. We're in this dungeon, and we'll find out we were in it after X amount of years. So, in my opinion, unless we get radical, nothing will be changed, and that's my thing.
Thank you, caller. Voice note.
Good morning, Kedaki. Good morning, listening viewers. My little take today is that Black people, wake up. $10,000 cannot even buy a 7-pound tin of milk with a cereal or a Nestum, what you call it. Wake up. PPP has cast a cloud over Guyana. It seems like don't care what Norton, put aside Norton, what black people do, like they can't move. Or finally, they're Suriname every minute. You just see all midnight. They're burying black people. There's silence in black people. Black people. Black people. It's time to put boots on the ground. Let us wake up from our sleeping beds. Get up. What $10,000 can do? That election is already rigged. And y'all take $10,000 for if the opposition lose the council or wherever they're going for the local government election, next thing they're going to say, watch the crowd, the black people crowd will go behind them. How much Indian people picture our finale or Jack Dio get up there. Look who they're putting up. Black people, all you wake up. Get sense. We gotta fight for our rights. We don't want to get like a Zimbabwe. It's equal rights and justice. Wake up. Wake up, my people. Are you wake up? Now let $10,000 buy all you. You see what black people get? Cutlass, fork, spade. You know what I mean? Clean gut and drain. Black people get up. Get up. Some I don't know if it's Mr. Norton or somebody was talking to meet somebody at the seawall. And you know what the body said, the girl pushing a cart. It's sexy subject. Wake up. I ain't see what go on. Wake up. Wake up. Marriott sell out, A selling out, that selling out. Look who buying it. Look who buying it. Wake up. That's my take for today.
Thank you for that voice. Now there's another one.
Good morning, Kadaki and viewers. As the caller said, we have to move on now by you guys encouraging people to go out and support the election now. But then how can I go and support the election now when my party didn't contest? I was once a PNC, now I'm a WPA. So who must I go and support now? My party didn't contest, so I can't support the election. I thank you for listening and playing my voice note.
Thank you for your voice note.
Good workshop. Brother Hinds, good morning. Let me tell you something. Good morning to yours too.
Good morning.
The PPP know all the person who cross over that they only want to grab. They will not get no position in the PPP. None whatsoever. The people knows this. The people get a microscope on all of them. You understand me? So when they feel that, yes, they're going to jump up, yes, there's a PPP, what position they could do? These people, all they're looking after is themselves. They are not loyal. All they're looking after is themselves and self alone. But you wait. You understand? If they could betray Jesus Christ, if Jesus Christ could be being betrayed, much less mankind, who crossing over and who crossing over. It's no problem if they want to cross over. When you cross over, stay over. You understand? What all of us supposed to get is love in our hearts, including both parties and everybody supposed to get love in their heart. And if they get love in their heart, they are not treating one set of people the way how they're treating the people. Because they have no love in their heart. All they're studying is money crave. Power at all means. That is what they're explaining right now. Power of all means. No matter what, that is it. And they're going to feel their own self. You understand? The longest rope get in hand. So we take it one day at a time. Keep the good works up, what y'all are doing. The 5-man party get a lot of power. I tell you this here, a lot of power. So take it easy, my brother.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, Dr. Hinds.
We dealt with that one. Good. So those are the voice notes. It's now 8 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. Dr. Hinds, your response to some of the things which were said and your closing remark, please.
The comments, of course, are encouraging. When you're an activist, you need that encouragement from our people. And in spite of all that's happening, our people are still optimistic. And we hope that our sisters and brothers in the other political parties are listening to the pleas, the cries, and the passion of our people, and change the equation. We in the WPA would still advocate that June 12th must be a day of massive uprising, but we will take our uprising to the ballot boxes. We'll take that uprising to the ballot boxes. And beyond the ballot boxes, once the elections are over, we have to convert that energy into transforming the society. We have to stand in the way of the PPP stampede, and we have to trip them over. And those who, in the face of all that has happened to Black people, can go over to the other side, we must make them uncomfortable. We must make them uncomfortable. They must be able to pay the price for what they are doing. And I make a distinction between Black PPP members and Black soup drinkers. There's a difference between the two. Black PPP members are people who've stood and been in the PPP for years. And I have no problem with them. But I have a problem with Black soup drinkers, especially those who enjoyed privilege and power when the PNC had it, and now they've gone over. When Indians, Guyanese got vexed with the PPP, they went to the AFC. They didn't come to the PNC. They went to the AFC. And if these people are vexed with the PNC, they could have found another party in the opposition to go to. The fact that they go over that side says it all. And they have to pay a price. I'm not advocating to harm anybody. People, even if they're soup drinkers, they have a right to be soup drinkers too. So I'm not advocating harming anybody. But we have to make sure that our children do not see them as honorable people. We have to make sure our children do not see them as examples. I'm not asking you all to do like what Jack Dio tell his supporters to do, chase them. I'm not asking you all to do that. And I'm not asking you all to harm them. What I'm saying, they must be ostracized. And they must be ostracized in the public space. When they come to drink at your table, get up and go at another table. If they got a business, boycott the business. They must feel it. They must be ostracized. You see them at one side of the road, pass to the next side of the road. Ostracize them. Ostracize them. They must be made to pay. Because it is not making themselves individually fools. They are selling their own people down the drain. That's their crime. That's their crime. selling the people down the drain, make them uncomfortable.
And I take that as your closing. Thank you, Dr. Hinds. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for tuning in to yet another program of Guyanese Morning Time. Tonight is Politics 101. I'm sure Dr. Hinds has guests. He has left, so I haven't gotten the opportunity to ask him who the guests are or is. But I definitely will see you tomorrow for another program. And somebody said, let it don't come back. So I'm going to play Tyrus Riley for you. Don't come back. I think it's a fitting song for some of those who have, jumped ship.
This cheese and bun are so cheesy.
Anything can be craveably puffy.
If you walk out through the door, goodbye, my love. I won't take it anymore. Adios, mi amor. Russian, she take me for a joke. If you feel like you have me wrapped up around your little finger, you're wrong. And everybody feel as if I you lick me chip and I'm programmed to you. Think I you alone can love me and I'll be broken if you walk out. But anytime you decide to pack up your things and leave, don't come back. One, go, don't come back. I won't cry, I'll be fine. Don't come back. Oh, don't come back. Nobody make you do a ritual when the good Lord split you. Don't come back. Roses are red, but life is real. This love is gone toxic and that poison. No need to play any games anymore. You're kinda loving and not loving to me. Drifting now, we're drifting. Remember when we were one? This ship is sinking. If we don't bail out, we're gonna drown. My cup is overflowing. I've had enough now. So anytime you decide to pack up your things and leave, don't come back. One, go, don't come back. I won't cry, I'll be fine. Don't come back. Anytime you're ready, when you're ready, you're free to go. Don't come back. And do not make you do a ritual when the good Lord split you. Don't come back. If you feel like you have me wrapped up around your little finger, you're wrong. And everybody feel as if I you lick me chip and I'm programmed to you. Cause you alone can love me and I'll be broken if you walk out. Pack up your things and leave. Don't come back.
Don't come back. That's Tyrus Riley for you. But you know what? Come back here tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock for another program of Guyanese Morning Time. Tomorrow we'll be talking about some things. Lots of things we will talk about. We always have things to talk about. I'm still waiting to hear a pronouncement on a relative of a big wig who was arrested by the police for illegal acts. Up until now, I haven't seen any stories of that person being charged and placed before the court. Because I understand fat money pass and so on and so forth. But I will stay on top of that story. I'll bring you the details when the time is right. Don't worry yourself. Have a good day. See you tomorrow morning for Politics 101. Remember, our anniversary is going to be celebrated with a dinner and dance on the 15th of July. Start getting your tickets. They're out there available. $10,000, dinner inclusive. Nice time. Live band, strongman, one-man band, and so on. There will be a cash bar. There are also table specials and so on. So start getting your tickets. Start linking up with your friends and prepare to come. Let us celebrate. We've been working hard for 3 years at Kams TV. And add to that, your boy gonna be turning 50 just around the same time. So let's have a grand time in July 15th, the date is.